Hola, mi gente. MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. Today, I'm very excited to come here and discuss the long list for the 2024 Faulkner Award for Fiction. So let's get right into it. All right. So there are a number of books on the long list, and I want to discuss all of them. We're going to talk about what they're about and whether or not it's something that I see myself reading. All right. First up, we have Witness by Jamil Brinkley. And here's the description. What does it mean to really see the world around you, to bear witness? And what does it cost us, both to see and not to see? In these 10 stories, each set in the changing landscapes of contemporary New York City, a range of characters, from children to grandmothers to ghosts, live through the responsibility of perceiving and the moral challenge of speaking up or taking action. Though they strive to connect with, stand up for, care for, and remember one another, they often fall short. And the structures they build around these ambitions and failures shape their futures as well as the legacies and prospects of their communities and their city. In its portraits of families and friendships lost and found, the paradox of intimacy, the long shadow of grief, and the meaning of home, Witness enacts its own testimony. Here is a world where fortunes can be made and stolen in just a few generations, where strangers might sometimes show kindness while those we trust, doctors, employers, siblings, too often turn away. When joy comes in snatches, flowers on a windowsill, dancing in the street, glimpsing your purpose change on the horizon. With prose as upendingly beautiful as it is artfully, seamlessly crafted, Jamil Brinkley offers nothing less than the full scope of life and death and change in the great, unending drama of the city. This does indeed sound interesting, definitely sounds complex. Y'all know I love complex stories of people trying to figure it out and determine who and how they want to be in the world. Is this something I'll rush to read? Probably not, but it is something that I would keep my eye on. I'm often a little hesitant with stories because it's so rare for me that I enjoy them throughout, right? With any story or book or collection of stories, you will have some that speak to you more than others. But sometimes it just can be such a drastic shift that I feel less inclined to read them. But I will look into it, and there's something that does sound interesting. Next up on the long list, we have The Guest by Emma Cline. Here's the description. Alex drained her wine glass, then her water glass. The ocean looked calm, a black darker than the sky. A ripple of anxiety made her palms go damp. It seemed suddenly very tenuous to believe that anything would stay hidden, that she could successfully pass from one world to another. So that's an excerpt, but here's the description. Summer is coming to a close on the east end of Long Island, and Alex is no longer welcome. A misstep at a dinner party, and the older man she's been staying with dismisses her with a ride to the train station and a ticket back to the city. What? With few resources and a waterlogged phone, but gifted with an ability to navigate the desires of others, Alex stays on Long Island and drifts like a ghost through the hedged lanes, gated driveways, and sun-blasted dunes of a rarefied world that is, at first, close to her. Propelled by desperation and a mutable sense of morality, she spends the next week leading up to Labor Day moving from one place to the next, a cipher leaving destruction in her wake. Taut, propulsive, and impossible to look away from, Emma Cline's The Guest is a spellbinding literary achievement. Now, I won't lie to y'all. That sounds interesting. That sounds like one I would check out. Might add it to the list. Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's definitely one that I think I would want to check out at some point for sure. He dropped her off at the train station. What? And she didn't leave. Now, I am curious though, because I sometimes wonder if books will live up to their description. And so, though I am really intrigued by the idea of that first part, I'm curious what she gets into and if that'll carry through, like if that'll be enticing and like an enjoyable ride throughout the rest of the story. But I would check it out to learn that and see. So, okay. Next up, we have Monica by Daniel Klaus. This one is a graphic novel, and here's the description. Monica is a series of interconnected narratives that collectively tell the life story, actually stories, of its title character. Klaus calls upon a lifetime of inspiration to create the most complex and personal graphic novel of his distinguished career. Rich with visual detail, an impeccable ear for language and dialogue, and thrilling twists, Monica is a multi-layered masterpiece in comics form that alludes to many of the genres that have defined the medium: war, romance, horror, crime, the supernatural, etc. But in a mysterious, uncategorizable, and quintessentially Klausian way that rewards multiple readings. 5 years in the making, Monica marks the apex of creativity from one of the defining voices of the graphic novel boom over the last quarter century. Full color illustrations throughout. Now, if you've been a part of the collective over here on the channel for a while, then you know that I do really enjoy a good graphic novel. The cover and the description aren't really pulling me in, but this is one where if I were at a comic book shop and I picked it up and I read a little bit and it intrigued me, I would pick it up. But just based on the cover and the description alone, as of right now, I don't see me getting to it. All right, next up we have Open Throat by Henry Hoke, or Henry Hoke. Now, I will say one thing I'm finding interesting about all of these books so far is they have about a 4-star rating. One of them has a 3.5-star rating. And sometimes it does intrigue me about the books that make it on this list. Are they critically acclaimed? Are they culturally acclaimed? A bit of both. And so by no means is a 4-star rating a bad thing. Absolutely not. But I do find that interesting that they're coming off as like good, solid reads, but not necessarily like great reads as far as the reviews that I'm seeing. But again, reviews are opinion based. And so some of these descriptions are given. All right, and here's what this one is about. A lonely, lovable queer mountain lion narrates this star-making fever dream of a novel. Interesting. A queer and dangerously hungry mountain lion lives in the drought-devastated land under the Hollywood sign. Lonely and fascinated by humanity's foibles, the lion spends their days protecting a nearby homeless encampment, observing hikers complain about their trauma, and, in quiet moments, grappling with the complexities of their gender identity, memories of a vicious father, and the indignities of sentience. When a man-made fire engulfs the encampment, the lion is forced from the hills down into the city the hikers call LA. As the lion confronts a carousel of temptations and threats, they take us on a tour that spans the cruel inequalities of Los Angeles and the toll of climate grief. But even when salvation finally seems within reach, they are forced to face down the ultimate question: do they want to eat a person or become one? Henry Hoke's Open Throat is a marvel of storytelling, a universal journey through a wondrous and menacing world recounted by a lovable mountain lion. Feral and vulnerable, profound and playful, Open Throat is a star-making novel that brings the mythic to life. That is a description. Seems kind of really abstract and esoteric. Mythic is a good word here as well. Not sure if I'm interested in reading it. Like, I wouldn't rush to check it out, but if people whose opinions I trusted read it and really gave it high reviews, then I would feel more inclined. But just based on the abstractness of it right now, I don't think it's something I would get to. All right, here's what we have next on the list, the long list. The Best Possible Experience by Nishanth Injam. My apologies if I'm ruining anyone's name. Here's the description. Vivid, vibrant, and unwaveringly affecting, The Best Possible Experience brings us intimate, impeccably realized accounts of individuals living in one of the most populous countries in the world and in its American diaspora, all haunted, in every sense of the word, by a loss of home. Classically elegant in prose and consistently modern in outlook, Nishanth Injam's stories question what it means to have a home and to return home, and show, above all, That home is not a place so much as it is people who are ready to accept you as you are. We see a young man trapped on a bus on the way to visit his parents as his fellow passengers vanish into the restroom. A family, newly in America, determined to host a perfect luncheon for their son's white classmate with no idea what to serve him. A woman who returns to a small village in India every summer to visit the grandfather who raised her, a man who lives with ghosts of his son and his wife, and a man preparing for his green card interview with the American woman he has paid to marry him. Asus Hennedy's talent. Injam first started writing after coming to the United States from India in his 20s. The best possible experience, his profoundly personal debut collection, delivers a universal inquiry into the idea of belonging and preserves in writing the home he left behind before it was lost. Now that sounds like it would be an interesting and enjoyable collection of stories to read. As you all may know, I love the idea of where people belong and grappling with and comparing where you come from to where you are, the desire, but also finding comfort and building new communities. And what does it mean to make a home? And what does it mean to come from a place? And is that home? So those are questions and ideas that I enjoy grappling with personally and interpersonally. So this is actually a stories collection that I would be more inclined to add to my list and get to. All right, next we have on the long list, What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez. Here's the description. The Ramirez women of Staten Island orbit around absence. When 13-year-old middle school Ruthie disappeared after track practice without a trace, it left the family scarred and scrambling. One night, 12 years later, oldest sister Jessica spots a woman on her TV screen in Catfight, a raunchy reality show. She rushes to tell her younger sister Nina this woman's hair is dyed red, and she calls herself Ruby, but the beauty mark under her left eye is instantly recognizable. Could it be Ruthie after all this time? The years since Ruthie's disappearance haven't been easy on the Ramirez family. It's 2008, and their mother, Dolores, still struggles with the loss. Jessica juggles a newborn baby with her hospital job, and Nina, after 4 successful years at college, has returned home to medical school rejections and is forced to work in the mall folding tiny bedazzled thongs at the lingerie store. After seeing maybe Ruthie on their screen, Jessica and Nina hatch a plan to drive to where the show is filmed in search of their long-lost sister. When Dolores catches wind of their scheme, she insists on joining, along with her pot-stirring holy roller best friend, Irene. What follows is a family road trip and reckoning that will force the Ramirez women to finally face the past and look toward a future, with or without Ruthie in it. What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez is a vivid family portrait in all its shattered reality, exploring the familial bonds between women and cycles of generational violence, colonialism, race, and silence, replete with snark, resentment, tenderness, and of course, love. Okay, cute. That sounds like it could be a very endearing read, and I would definitely be open to checking it out for sure. I can't say it's one of the ones that I would probably check out from the library first to see how much I enjoyed it before deciding whether or not to add it to my collection, but it's definitely one I would be open to reading. Next, we have Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. Here's the description. When X, an iconoclastic artist, writer, and polarizing shapeshifter, falls dead in her office, her widow, CM, wild with grief and refusing everyone's good advice, hurls herself into writing a biography of the woman she deified. Though X was recognized as a crucial creative force of her era, she kept a tight grip on her life story. Not even CM knows where X was born, and in her quest to find out, she opens a Pandora's box of secrets, betrayals, and destruction. All the while, she immerses herself in the history of the Southern Territory, a fascist theocracy that split from the rest of the country after World War II, and which finally, in the present day, is being forced into an uneasy reunification. A masterfully constructed literary adventure complete with original images assembled by X's widow, Biography of X follows CM as she traces X's peripatetic trajectory over decades, from Europe to the ruins of America's divided territories, and through her collaborations and feuds with everyone from Bowie and Waits to Sontag and Acker. At last, when she finally understands the scope of X's defining artistic project, CM realizes her wife's deceptions were far crueler than she imagined. Posting with suspense and intellect while blending nonfiction and fiction, Biography of X is a roaring epic that plumbs the depths of grief, art, and love. In her most ambitious novel yet, Catherine Lacey pushes her craft to its highest level, introducing us to an unforgettable character who, in her tantalizing story, shows us the fallibility of the stories we craft for ourselves. It sounds like a lot is going on. Sounds like it could be an interesting read, especially if you're into mysteries and nonfiction. And I can be into both of those, but they're not usually what I lean towards reading. And so it's one that I would be open to checking out, but I wouldn't rush to get to it from what I've read so far. All right, next up we have The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. Now we're moving up to some books that have higher ratings, but here's the description. In 1972, when workers in Pottstown, Pennsylvania were digging the foundations for a new development, the last thing they expected to find was a skeleton at the bottom of a well. Who the skeleton was and how it got there were two of the long-held secrets kept by the residents of Chicken Hill, the dilapidated neighborhood where immigrant Jews and African Americans lived side by side and shared ambitions and sorrows. Chicken Hill was where Moshe and Shona Ludlow lived when Moshe integrated his theater and where Shona ran the Heaven and Earth grocery store. When the state came looking for a deaf boy to institutionalize him, it was Shona and Nate Timblin, the Black janitor at Moshe's theater and the unofficial leader of the Black community on Chicken Hill, who worked together to keep the boy safe. As these characters' stories overlap and deepen, it becomes clear how much the people who live on the margins of white Christian America struggle and what they must do to survive. When the truth is finally revealed of what happened on Chicken Hill and the part the town's white establishment played in it, McBride shows us that even in dark times, it is love and community, heaven and earth, that sustain us. Bringing his masterly storytelling skills and his deep faith in humanity to the Heaven and Earth grocery store, James McBride has written a novel as compassionate as Deacon Kong and as inventive as the Good Lord Bird. This is a book that was everywhere last year, really critically acclaimed, but also readers seem to enjoy it as well. It is one that I hope to get to soon. And yeah, it's one that I'm looking forward to reading. I am curious if it will live up to all of the hype and the acclaim, but I'm going to try to go into it with no expectations, though I still do want an enjoyable read, but that's always the case. And so, yeah, it's definitely one I plan on having on my TBR and getting to in the future. So next we have Absolution by Alice McDermott. Here's the description. American women, American wives, have been mostly minor characters in the literature of the Vietnam War. But in Absolution, they take center stage. Tricia is a shy newlywed, married to a rising attorney on loan to Navy intelligence. Charlene is a practiced corporate spouse and mother of three, a beauty, and a bully. In Saigon in 1963, the two women form a wary alliance as they balance the era's mandate to be helpmates to their ambitious husbands with their own inchoate impulse to do good for the people of Vietnam. 60 years later, Charlene's daughter, spurred by an encounter with an aging Vietnam vet, reaches out to Tricia. Together, they look back at their time in Saigon, taking right account of that pivotal year and of Charlene's altruistic machinations, and discovering how their own lives as women on the periphery of politics, of history, of war, of their husbands' convictions, have been shaped and burdened by the same sort of unintended consequences that followed America's tragic interference in Southeast Asia. A virtuosic new novel from Alice McDermott, one of our most observant, most affecting writers, about folly and grace, obligation and sacrifice, and finally, the quest for absolution in a broken world. It sounds interesting. Not one that I think I would pick up, but I definitely see the appeal. All right, next up we have Users by Colin Winnett. And here's the description. Miles, a lead creative at a mid-sized virtual reality company known for its original experiences, has engineered a new product called the Ghost Lover. Wildly popular from the onset, the game is simple. A user's simulated life is almost identical to their reality, except they're haunted by the ghost of an ex-lover. Please no. However, when a shift in the company's strategic vision puts the ghost lover at the center of a platform-wide controversy, Miles becomes the target of user outrage and starts receiving a series of anonymous death threats. Typed notes sealed in envelopes with no postage or return address. These persistent threats push Miles into a paranoid panic, blurring his own sense of reality, catalyzing the collapse of his career, his marriage, and his relationship with his children. The once promising road to success becomes a narrow set of choices for Miles, who, in a last-ditch effort to save his job, pitches his masterpiece, a revolutionary device codenamed the Egg, which will transform the company. The consequences for Miles seal him inside the walls of his life as what was once anxiety explodes into devastating absoluteness. In a world rife with the unchecked power and ambition of tech, Users investigate, with both humor and creeping dread, how interpersonal experiences and private decisions influence the hasty developments that have the power to permanently alter the landscapes of human experience. I like the idea of that. It does remind me of an episode I've seen before of a series, but it does sound as if it could be interesting. So I would definitely be willing to checking it out. Those are all of the books that have been longlisted for the 2024 Faulkner Award. And so here's what it says on the website. In selecting the longlist, this year's judges considered 445 eligible novels and short story collections by American authors published in the U.S. during the 2023 calendar year. Submissions came from 205 publishing houses, including small and academic presses. From this long list, the judges will select 5 finalists for the 2024 Faulkner Award for Fiction. Those finalists will be announced in early March. The winning book, the first among equals, selected from among the 5 finalists, will be announced in April. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Once the shortlist comes out, I'm going to try to make sure I read all of those before the announcement is made the following month. And I'll let you know which one I think should win. And we'll see if that is the winner. But that's the list. I just wanted to come on here and share it with you all. I think these lists are really interesting. There's a bit of excitement, but there's also always books that maybe you feel should have made it, or some books you'll read the description and you're like, I don't know if I agree with them being in the category. But, again, it's writing, it's subjective, and everyone, I'm sure, pours themselves completely into their work and their writing and their art. So it's a great honor to be on the long list, and an even greater honor to be on the short list, and then the ideal situation to be the winner. And so the Faulkner is also an interesting award in relation to the Pulitzer. I told you all that I would be looking forward to that too, really trying to see the type of bodies of writing that tend to win these awards. And I want to see and do some analysis for myself. But this is the list. I just wanted to come share it quickly. Let me know if you've read any of these books. What are your takes? Do you agree with the list? Are there some books you would have liked to have seen? Are there some books that you probably would remove? Let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, until the next one, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. Please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the best day of your life on purpose. Peace. Odabo. Adios. Ciao.